Stephen King has written hundreds of short stories and dozens of novellas. I'm talking today about my top 5 favorite collections that contain short stories and or novellas. Let me know in the comments, my friends, if you've read any of these or if you have a book recommendation for me. Let's get into this here. I'm starting it out with number 5, Just After Sunset, which is a collection of 13 short stories. Stephen King was asked to edit the Best American Short Stories collection in 2006, and he was thinking about writing another novel at that time. And it turns out that after going through hundreds of short stories, reading them so that he could select some for that compilation, he decided to write his own short story collection, and that is where we get Just After Sunset. Some really good ones in this. Ghost stories are a theme in this one, and The Cat from Hell is a short story in this one about a man who hires a contract killer to kill his cat. N is a short story in this one. It's the best short story I've ever read in my entire life. It's a nested narrative short story that's extremely imaginative and inventive. Let me know in the comments if you've read it. I don't want to spoil it for you, my friends, so I don't want to talk about it. It's a very unique short story. And Stationary Bike is probably my other favorite one in this compilation, about a man who may or may not be traveling into some kind of other dimension when he gets on his exercise bike in his basement. Really interesting story. There are a few short stories in this compilation that maybe I wasn't the biggest fan of, but overall, I think that it's a fantastic collection, and I highly recommend it. Number 4 here, my friends, is quite a well-known Stephen King book, Skeleton Crew. This is a 1985 publication, and there are a lot of winners in this one as well. The Mist is in this compilation. Everyone loves The Mist, and I'll tell you this, my friends, I haven't seen the movie of The Mist, but I know that the short story ends differently, and it's quite a good book. Grandma is in this one. It's about a young man, an 11-year-old boy, whose grandmother is dying in a room in their house. And he starts getting some really unusual vibes from his grandmother. Beach World is in this one. There are 2 poems in this one. This one is actually a collection of 19 short stories, 2 novellas, or actually 19 short stories, 2 poems, and a novella, which is The Mist. For Owen is a poem dedicated to Stephen King's son. Uncle Odo's Truck is in this one, about an old beat-up truck that sits out in a field, and there's some really extraordinary evil things going on with that truck. Quite an inventive tale is this one as well. The Raft is in this one. The Wedding Gig is in this one, which is a horrific but funny story about a mobster wedding. And I really love this one. On the front here, you see this monkey that has symbols. The monkey is probably the highlighted story in this collection. It's all about a little toy that is really evil, and a couple of kids have a hard time with the toy. So yeah, I definitely recommend Skeleton Crew. Moving on here, my friends, to a collection of 4 novellas that was absolutely fantastic. This is one of the better books I've ever read in my lifetime. 4 Past Midnight. Each of these stories I absolutely loved. The Langoliers, many people know of that one. They made a movie out of it. It's a good story with a time travel theme in it that I think works really well. Secret Window, Secret Garden. They made a movie with Johnny Depp. It's all about a man named Mort Rainey. He's an author, a successful novelist, and a man named John Shooter shows up on his doorstep claiming that Mort stole one of his stories. Really interesting psychological thriller that just works fantastically. Loved Secret Window, Secret Garden. The Library Policeman is a reader's read. It's the darkest tale in this story, and it's about an evil librarian and what might happen to you if you don't return your library books in on time. And finally, my friends, The Sundog, which was probably my favorite in this collection. I know a lot of people say that it was their least favorite in this collection, but The Sundog gives us a history of Castle Rock. It's about a lot of things that happened before the novel Needful Things. We're with Pop Merrill, who has died by the time Needful Things comes around, chronologically speaking. And it's about Pop Merrill running his store and a camera, a Polaroid camera, that takes pictures that are seemingly from another world. 4 Past Midnight is absolutely fantastic, and I couldn't possibly give this one a stronger recommendation. Next up is a book, number 2, that a lot of people say maybe wasn't their favorite, but I think it's just filled with gold here. Everything's Eventual 14 Dark Tales. In this one is a fantastic award-winning short story called The Man in the Black Suit, which is about a little boy who goes fishing one day and he comes across the devil himself, the man in the black suit. Really good story. Autopsy Room 4 is a good one in this one. The Death of Jack Hamilton, which is about a mobster's death. I know they were supposed to make a movie of the death of Jack Hamilton, though I don't think they did. The Little Sisters of Illyria is in this compilation. It's a prelude to the Dark Tower series, my favorite story of all time. It's with Roland the Gunslinger before he steps into the desert chasing Randall Flagg in the Dark Tower series. So I really had a smile on my face when I found The Little Sisters of Illyria. I didn't know about it, didn't find it until after I read the Dark Tower series, so that was a real gem and a real pleasure for me. Everything's Eventual is about, that's the name of this compilation, but there's a short story in this compilation titled Everything's Eventual. It is about Dinky Earnshaw, a character in the Dark Tower series. So there's some Dark Tower stuff going on in this. You get Dinky's story right here in Everything's Eventual. LT's Theory of Pets is in this compilation. Good story. The Road Virus Heads North is a really good one as well. Riding the Bullet. They made a movie out of that one. It's a really popular Stephen King movie. And 1408, which is, I don't know if I want to call it the best one in there, but they made a movie of it as well. And it's about a haunted hotel room, room 1408. And everyone's afraid to go into this hotel room. They don't even use it in the hotel. They just leave it empty and rent the other rooms out. Well, a writer who writes about ghosts, real life stories, and some fiction, he decides he wants to go into this room and stay the night so that he can get material for a story. And it's really interesting and horrific what happens to him while he's in that room. So yeah, I definitely recommend Everything's Eventual, especially if you are a Dark Tower junkie. Finally, my friends, number 1, I'm coming around to the best Stephen King book I have ever read. As far as just the quality of the storytelling goes in and of itself, of course, my favorite story is the Dark Tower series, but there's a lot of Dark Tower going on in this one as well. Number 1, my friends, Hearts in Atlantis. This is a collection of 2 novellas and 3 short stories, and the first one in this is a Dark Tower companion story titled Low Men in Yellow Coats. It's all about a man named Ted Brodigan who's in the Dark Tower series. This is no spoiler, my friends. In the Dark Tower series, Ted Brodigan takes a break from what he's doing. He goes off and just disappears for a while. In Low Men in Yellow Coats, it's all about what he does while he's on break from the Dark Tower series. It's really Bobby Garfield's story, a little boy who befriends Ted Brodigan, and it becomes clear that there are some people after Ted Brodigan in this book, and it's all about Bobby helping Ted to stay away from these authority figures chasing Ted Brodigan. And if you've read the Dark Tower series, my friends, you'll know just who it is who's after Ted. I absolutely loved this story, and just to give you some perspective, I tried reading it, Low Men in Yellow Coats, before I read the Dark Tower series, and I didn't really like it. Couldn't understand what was going on. I ended up quitting probably about halfway through. After I finished the Dark Tower series, I came back to Hearts in Atlantis, and I absolutely loved Low Men in Yellow Coats. Once I had an idea of what was really going on, I was totally hooked. The other novella in this compilation is called Hearts in Atlantis. And there's a theme that runs through all of the stories in here. There are 3 short stories as well. And that is the Vietnam War and the Vietnam wartime in America and just how life was at that time. And Hearts in Atlantis is about some college kids and a friendship that they create there at their school, and it's just about them and their lives. And they play Hearts a lot, the card game Hearts, and that's why it's named Hearts in Atlantis. And it's a very heartfelt kind of dramatic story that was just totally engrossing for me, following these friends through their lives and with some things that happen afterward. Although I really liked Low Men in Yellow Coats because it's a Dark Tower background kind of story, Hearts in Atlantis is probably the best story in this compilation as far as just the quality of the writing itself. This book is just, I just can't say enough about this. This may be the best book that I have ever read in my entire life. The other 3 short stories in this one of them is called Blind Willie. It's about a man who pretends to be blind, to be a panhandler, a beggar in New York City, and he makes a small fortune doing so. And it's really interesting going on with him to experience his gimmick, his scheme to try to make a lot of money pretending to be blind. And it's just a really interesting story. And the Vietnam wartime theme runs through it as well. And there are a couple of other stories in this book that are absolutely worth reading. One of them, the final one in this story, I can't remember what it's called. Let me look at my notes here for just a minute here, friends. Forgive me. The other ones in this story are called Why We're in Vietnam. And it's a short story about the war itself. And in this book, there are characters that are in each one of these. There are recurring characters. For example, in Low Men in Yellow Coats, it's Bobby Garfield's story. Well, Bobby Garfield is also in Heavenly Shades of Night. Heavenly Shades of Night are falling. It's about him later in life because Low Men in Yellow Coats is basically about his childhood. So Bobby shows up in another one. And in each one of these stories, there are characters that are in the other stories. So that's how they're connected together. Heavenly Shades of Night Are Falling is a really good story, and it gives us a little more about Low Men in Yellow Coats. It talks about later on in Bobby Garfield's life after his encounter with Ted Brodigan. And it's really interesting and well-written story. And Why We're in Vietnam is really good as well. One of the kids from Hearts in Atlantis is now at war in this story. And all of these stories just work out really well. And I just want to say it again one more time, my friends. Hearts in Atlantis may be the best book that I have ever read in my entire lifetime. It's such a quality piece that I was so caught up in. And even if you haven't read the Dark Tower series, my friends, you can still perfectly enjoy Low Men in Yellow Coats. But if you have read the Dark Tower series, I think that there's more to be enjoyed in that story. So I've said enough here, my friends. These are my top 5. There are some other Stephen King collections that I own here that I haven't read. For example, Stephen King wrote If It Bleeds is the new one by him. I know that it's 4 novellas. If It Bleeds is right. I haven't got that one yet, but I want to. This is a common thing for Stephen King to write a few novellas. 4 novellas is really common for him to come up in a collection, but he also wrote Nightmares and Dreamscapes, which is a really massive book. Let me grab it here. Where is it? There it is. Nightmares and Dreamscapes. This is a massive collection of short stories. And I've got another one back there called Stephen King Goes to the Movies. And there's even another one that I own called Different Seasons. And I'm really looking forward to the Shawshank Redemption story, to reading Apt Pupil. I saw the movie, but I haven't read the story. So I have a ways to go here, my friends, concerning getting all of these Stephen King short stories and novellas read. So please subscribe to me if you made it this far. I will be talking about all of these short stories that I haven't read here in the future on my channel. And I'm going to leave it at that, my friends. I thank you all for stopping by. Don't forget to drop me a comment if you have read a good book recently. I always take those into account. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.